with Board Procedure BP5. This meeting will be live streamed and recorded and can be viewed on the DASD YouTube channel. It is 6 o'clock and I will call the meeting to order. Rebecca, was the meeting properly noticed?
Yeah.
Thank you. And can we have a roll call, please?
Jan Berg, here. Brian Coker.
Here.
Sue Esser.
Here.
Jeff Hahn. Linda Lenhart.
Here.
Gussie Lewis. Gail Lovett.
Here.
Stephanie Starr.
Here.
Megan Taylor.
Here.
Thank you. That brings us to the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Brings us to the mission, vision, and equity statement.
The mission of the DeForest Area School District is to provide an excellent education and engage, challenge, and inspire all students to pursue their full potential. Vision statement. The DeForest Area School District is committed to a culture that honors knowledge, respects individuals, demands excellence, fosters lifelong learning, and supports relationships that strengthen individuals, families, and community. Our equity statement. We believe every student can learn and deserves equitable access to high quality, rigorous, and engaging learning opportunities. So we will ask questions, foster relationships, manage resources, and create systems to increase and sustain access, equity, and safety for all learners.
Thank you. That brings us to approving the agenda. Would somebody care to make that motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as is.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. That brings us to board education. And tonight we have Joe, I'm going to say Schrader,
Schrader.
from ASA, the Association of Wisconsin School Administrators, joining us on Google.
Yeah, so I'm going to kick it off here with, this is Joe, and we have been working as a school district on something called SAIL, and he's going to describe what that is. Joe is with us from the Association of Wisconsin School Administrators, and our team has been through the first 3 days of training and in the midst of implementing their first 100-day action plans, which he's going to talk a little bit about. And we are really excited as a district. We have about 50-ish teacher leaders that did this training along with, so it's our building leadership teams members, along with a core team of administrators here. So Joe, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Great, thanks Rebecca, and good evening everyone. It's great to be here with you. Just some of you I know, some of you I've known for quite a while. I've been in this work a long time, almost 40 years. So I was in the Madison area as an undergrad, coaching in the Badger Conference. I remember, so we were around in the late 80s, all these predictions for all this growth in the Madison area, and by the mid 90s, it was being realized. And so I remember when DeForest was a little town and like all the other areas are changing. In the 90s, 95, I came in back to the Madison area from Fox Valley and was continuing my master's and PhD work while I was a principal in the area. And then I was in, if you're looking at the bottom of this, just a little background further about who this guy is with you. Then I went to the second principalship at Brookfield East High School in the Milwaukee metro area, assistant superintendent for teaching and learning in Elmbrook, that same system, and then superintendent at Muskego, Norway. So I still live in the Milwaukee metro area because that's where I went when I was raising my kids, and they're here, and my grandkids now as well. But I've been working for 15 years, as Rebecca just said, for the Wisconsin School Administrators Association, which has me working literally from, in this past year, Superior, down to with Illinois state line, or county to the Mississippi River. Our office is actually probably as close to DeForest School District as any other district in the state. We're just on the far east side of Madison, 10 to 15 minutes from your district office to my office. But tonight I'm coming to you from my home in Delafield. So good to be here with you. And then also, some of you like Jamberg, and some of the others on the board, seen me many times. I was actually part of the superintendent search firm that helped you land Eric Renez back in the day and things like that. So it's good to see you again. Good to interact with the DeForest school system. And about SAIL, Rebecca, I don't know if she shared this yet. She was actually at Kettle Moraine which is where my current district of residence. So the Kettle Moraine School District in Metro Milwaukee. She was a principal at the time in our very first cohort of SAIL. So kind of coming back, Rebecca, good to see you again. So what is SAIL? I know Rebecca gave you a little bit of background. I guess my job today is to kind of expand on that a bit, make sure you understand the investment you're making in this and what we're finding over time as we are now in our 14th cohort. So your teams are actually in the 14th cohort of this group. That means 14 years we've been doing it. And so SAIL in a very, very short would be is a disciplined continuous improvement process that helps districts do less better through short cycles, focused goals, and high leverage strategies while honoring your local context. I like to say that SAIL is about getting better at getting better, and that's not easy. But we've learned a lot. I was at the foundation of this. Kettle Moraine was one of only 4 district teams when we first launched this. I and another coach. We now have 18 coaches because we have venues across the state, and we've learned a lot. And so I've gone through, there's 3 cycles a year, 3 100-day cycles each year. And so if you do the math, that means I've been through 39 cycles of this process. And as you would expect, we get clearer about what really works, what gets results. We see the patterns. And so that's helped us hopefully be able to be better teachers than when Rebecca and team went through it the first cohort. And I hope that'll help your teams really benefit. So I know you're part of WASB, and so I shared this a few years back. I was asked by WASB to share more about SAIL because there's a good buzz that was coming around with some of the results for kids and shifts in adult practice. And so this was just a bit of what I was writing about, and then was asked to present, at the school board's, the Wisconsin annual conference in Milwaukee in January, shared on this as well. So really it's about having more impact and truly becoming aligned with the mission and vision that I just heard you talk about for all students being successful, being ready. And you can see some of the pieces here that we try to do. So just, and we've seen that at this point, we've had so many teams come through and we've seen success that's notable. I just want to share a few of those, and it really is across a variety of contexts. So this is an elementary school in Brookfield. This is going back to cohort 10 a few years back now, but the orange dots represented where that school was when they first started SAIL, and the dots are every grade band in that elementary school, and they were all below a year's growth on average. And a year later, how they were all above that. You can see that. So some pretty notable things, not just for a group or a few kids, but it was across the school, significant difference in the results in growing kids and all over every grade over a year's growth. We've also been able to do it to scale. So worked with Janesville School District in cohort 11. Again, remember you're in cohort 14. So worked with all 12 of the elementary schools in Janesville, and you can see what happened just a year into SAIL. And again, we can't promise these results. It's hard work. But in that case, you saw system-wide, this was across the 12 schools, the growth in reading that we helped through some of the processes we're putting in place. And then it's also been true for high schools, not just elementaries or elementary school system levels. So this is Eau Claire North, who after year 2, you can see the increase in across for all students in ELA, so English Language Arts, for students with disabilities, for students experiencing poverty across subgroups, et cetera. And then this year, now it's 3 years later, the results are significant now, much continuing to grow and beyond, even for things like now in their ACT performance, and the first time they had growth in both ELA and math, I think in over a decade in both. So, and then also for systems. So this is Oostburg, who was either in cohort 2 or 3, one of our earliest schools, again, school systems and teams. And when they came in, they were right here, 2013, 2014, they were right in this range. And we're working on really a system approach to getting the ACT performance better. And you can see now a significantly different. They were kind of up and down, average to low and now they're been not just in the top decile, but they're actually one of the top 10 districts consistently in our state now for that. So, you know, we can go on and on with these, but I'll share one more, and that's also the Elmbrook school system. So it'd be a system we've already been doing really strong work, but we've also shown that we can take, you know, a really strong system and make them even better. So a year ago, they were celebrating for the first time. This was after their going into their third year, I think 3 years of sale, 2 years with us, and then, you know, they continue running the cycles afterwards. But you can see the movement they had across in ELA and in math across their 9-school system. And again, first time the district and every school was a 5-star or significantly exceeding for student support. So, you know, we really get excited about our ability to help schools and school systems deliver on their mission, get better at that North Star, close gaps for all, and, you know, raise the bar for all while you're doing that. So, and so now, you know, really part of that is that's some of what we see with the fruit of this, you know, very different contexts. You know, so we've also, just because of that, and people are just rolling up their sleeves and getting at it like your system, we just see a lot more folks. So we used to have one venue, Wisconsin Dells venue, and we get, you know, 4 teams our first year, maybe up to 12 teams, et cetera. Now we're at the point of having the last few years, 80 to 90 teams across multiple venues each year. So this is the year, and sales a 2-year program. We get in each year, there's 3 cycles of 100 days each. So the idea is that after 2 years of embedding these processes in those cycles with coaching support, that there's an ability for the system to independently now put these and continue these efforts in a kind of an institutionalized way. And so, so this was the folks who are in year 2 of sale, so they're still in sale, and you can just see the range of folks. Blue font, and there are actually 3 different sites for the year 2 teams. So the red ones are in New Berlin, so Milwaukee Metro, so a mix of New Berlin and Oconomowoc teams, plus you'll see the other red ones from around the state. There's one in the Madison area, Monona Grove, involves all 3 of the systems of people you know well, probably at least fairly well in your area, like Mills, Monona Grove, and Mount Horeb. And then the ones in black font are at the Dells. You're part of the Wanakee and DeForest cohort, of course, and you can see them all in purple. So that's that 4th group, and then we have a 5th group in the Dells for year 1 teams. So again, altogether, you're part of I think it's 94 teams, around 770-ish, I think, leaders, if I'm remembering correctly. So there's a lot of folks leaning into this hard but worthwhile and important work relative to mission and vision, and excited about that. And again, I think that's a product of people seeing the results, willing to do really hard work because they're wanting to really make that happen locally, just like your folks are. So kudos to you for creating conditions to have people lean in like that, to support them in the efforts, etc. So it went from, like I said, 2 coaches originally to now there's 18 because of all those sites and all those teams. Because remember, every team gets a coach, and coaches can only do so many teams and do it well. So in your venue, I'm actually not one of the facilitators. I have 3 others I run with other coaches, but Jedabel Rodriguez is one of our directors at ASA. She was the turnaround principal in Milwaukee. Does great work. She's been with us for 4 to 5 years now and has led this work really well and continues to help us really grow it. Kevin Bruging was the superintendent who brought the Oostburg team that we're just celebrating, and then he's been part of our staff while continuing to be superintendent, and just retired actually just this past month, but continues to work in sale. So you're really lucky to have him as well. Tricia Rohde was a turnaround principal, I would say, in Sauk Prairie Middle School. Really wonderful results with her team in what they got for kids, and very different results and very much improved results at Sauk Prairie Middle School. Just took a job this past month as a director in Sauk Prairie. She's one of the faculty members in your cohort with Wanakee's schools as well. And then Cindy Olson is our 4th coach in your site. So these are people you will maybe see or you'll hear about. Cindy was in sale both as a middle school principal in Oshkosh probably cohort 7 or something. Then in Green Bay around cohort 9 and 10, another middle school, and then a director at Green Bay when we were working with them back like a few years ago. So she's really well versed in it as well. You have very seasoned people understand the process well. And then these 4 all teach your folks, but Kevin and Cindy are the coaches for your teams. So that's the folks you'd have. So I'm just going to stop right there for a moment. There's much more I'd walk you through yet, but any questions so far, kind of about the approach we're taking, kind of the general big picture of the movement of SAIL, I guess, if you will, as an academy for getting better at getting better.
Any questions?
So how many goals do you guys set? And is it like global goals or school goals? Like how do you break those down?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So typically we view, so like a strategic plan has, various parts to it. We don't try to do everything about a school district's efforts. Like you have, around, I assume you have some aspect of your strategic plan, like around resource stewardship and operations. That's not what SAIL is about. You might also have things around community and family engagement. That's also really important, but that's not what SAIL is about. SAIL is really about maybe when I facilitate strategic planning too, so I'm bringing this up. I think it's really around 2 other parts of typical continuous improvement work, namely learning improvement. So how do we improve teaching and learning, and how do we really grow our staff, our biggest investment? So that human resources development around student learning and teacher practice shifts to get at the mission achievement. And so with that in mind, we usually have 1 to 2 goals. We used to have 2 to 3, and then we got deeper into the research. We also saw the patterns, and we saw that the biggest impact for teams is when they can hone in over some time for 1 or 2 student learning goals. And so you'll see that in SAIL plans, a max of 2 goals, but they must be around student learning, and they must be related to real data facts. And I see that in the blurb that Rebecca sent you. She's talking about the brutal facts. And so we actually do some things that help them really understand what the data is telling them as brutal facts, because we know the good to great journey is always about, first and foremost, understanding and embracing those, so you can actually focus your energy, time, talent, and treasure into addressing those.
And so Brian asked a good question about how many goals. Those 1 to 2 feed directly into the board monitoring reports. So they're very connected, obviously, to that work. Like that is the most important thing that we really want our teachers to own, our buildings, and ultimately our students to own that where we're heading as a district.
And those 1 to 2 goals are for the whole district, or are they by building?
No, they're by building based on their local context. And we'll talk about that at the end a little bit, because even now, I can talk to you right now that one of the brutal facts that came up is that writing was lower than state average in a particular set of grade band. And so that set of grades really took that as their goal, is they are going to have their students in that meets category or exceeds by the end of this SAIL adventure. So, and that was really important for that local context to get that right.
Yeah, and it's important to note too that sometimes goals are like kind of tasks, like, set this up, put a curriculum in, implement a program. Those are all important, but the goals are about results for student learning, for student growth. They're going to be student focused. It isn't just what the adults are going to put in place. So again, I want to make that point. So these are the biggest of the moves that you to have. It's the most complex of the work, I would argue, in schools. And it's the work that we're honing in on, and people, have to dig in deep and dig in relevant ways to make it happen. And, particularly we have found, and I think it's important that to note this in your approach, that schools should have a really a good amount of teacher leadership engaged in this process. And you do. And I think that density of teams with teacher leaders, along with the administrative leaders, et cetera, sets you up for making greater odds of hitting these sorts of progress and highlights that we were just kind of raising up to you in my earlier comments.
Joe, have you had anybody ever repeat fail? I know that you said that like it's a 2-year band and typically you want to see success out of that, but I imagine not every district sees that success. Have you had them repeat it or what does it look
Yeah,
like?
we have. And actually, it's actually, you know, we you know, like anything, we want to kind of just take a time and just like, let's talk about that. If you're coming, what's the difference? What's, you know, we have had that and we've actually typically had pretty good results from that. Sometimes it's been like there's a new leader. There's a different composition to the team. There's a readiness that, you know, whatever it might be. You know, I think, and I also want to note, you know, so yeah, that happens. Sometimes people seek out a 3rd-year support. Like now we have the process in place. We really value the coaching and the nudging and the you know, whatever. So sometimes people will see if we can still provide some level of year 3 support, but we're definitely on a pathway of trying to help you sooner than later. Be able to just kind of internalize and institutionalize, as we like to call it, this work. And that's also why I think it's really important that you are coming in it all at once. I know it's a big investment of time and, you know, there's a lot of faith you put in this. We don't take that for granted, you know, and we can't promise anything for anyone, but we feel like there's a growing track record of that this can be really fruitful. And so that you're coming as a system at once is, I think, really important. And that also has been, you know, high teacher density, coming as a system at once, coming in with looking at data in real ways that are relevant to your own context and your biggest brutal facts that might be different in school A versus school B, even within the school system. Like all those things that you're doing, I think are key ingredients to having higher prospects of fruitfulness from the process.
Other questions for Joe before we move on?
We're good for now.
Okay,
Seems like
great. So then I will, you know, so one of the things that why we built SAIL is when I was first at OSA, it's my 15th year, and we were thinking about putting these things in. And, you know, I learned some things as a system leader in Elmbrook and Muskego that were really helpful to both those districts. And so, you know, others could, I didn't feel like everyone could take all the time that I had been afforded to learn some of these things and put them in place. So like, you know, I'd hear people around this stuff, like we're working harder than ever. Why aren't we seeing an impact that's, you know, proportionate to all this effort? And I think the answer was largely like whack-a-mole or like running on a hamster wheel, pick your best metaphor. And, you know, people really are. There's a lot, our field knows more about what, you know, has an effect on kids. Think of John Hattie's work and others, but, you know, so we know all these things can work and have a positive effect size. And somehow we get confused sometimes that, so doing more of these high effect things will, you know, should have a combination more impact. And unfortunately, that actually goes the other way. There's a law of diminishing returns. We just try keeping up with this initiative and that shiny thing. And oh yeah, they're doing this down the road. And then we start, you know, just chasing rather than actually implementing deeply. And so it's interesting, again, and so thanks Rebecca for sharing the blurb that you sent the board about this topic ahead of time. I was just looking at it just before I got on, and you know, you're mentioning about that, you know, centered to this SAIL work is the work of Michael Fullen and Joanne Quinn called Coherence. And actually we were under, that book wasn't around when Rebecca was in the first cohort. It came out about cohort 4 or 5, and I was reading it going like, this isn't really what we're trying to do with SAIL. And now their research just kind of codified it. And what they found was, in a word, the biggest difference between school systems around the world who really did move the needle powerfully for all kids is that, in a word, they were coherent. And what made them unique was not that they worked in a different bubble or something. They worked in the kind of the initiative overload, program overload context of the 21st century schooling enterprise. But what they did is they found a way to disrupt that. Just like you have to disrupt inequitable systems to get at to get at equitable results for all kids. Very similarly, the work of schools, public schools in particular, is focused on the urgent. And so you have to disrupt the urgent to get at the impactful. So we like to say, like, we try to help people not confuse activity with impact. And so we love this opening question of the book. It's in fact, it's in the preface. The first question of the preface before you get to page 1 is this question. So how do you turn overload and fragmentation, in other words, this stuff, because it's endemic around the world. How do you turn that into focus and coherence? And so the way we do it is, this is the framework. And so they've learned that, and we try to have sales teams do this. So focusing direction. So you ask how many goals? 1 to 2. And that's part of focusing direction, but you don't just make it up. Like, we start with a clear data piece, and then that helps them focus where identify a potential focus or 2. We do root cause analysis. We go deeper into it, all these sorts of things. There's coaching support. But once we're focused, then we have to put that focus in the right culture, because otherwise, good strategy in a toxic culture isn't going to go anywhere. And so we really think we work on that. We continue to help people then over time, because you're going to have these goals more than a cycle, like more than 100-day cycles. So over time, if you can stay focused, put in the right culture, then you have the opportunity to deepen learning for teachers, for leaders, for coaches alike, and be clear about what good looks like in an area of focus. So then the accountability naturally happens as follow through, not like this kind of onerous, top down piece. It's really about like, okay, we've been really clear and focused, and with that clarity, we're going to monitor to make sure that you have what you need to do it well so our students can benefit. And that's accountability. And so these are some of the things that you would see over time. We think early on in sale, like even this fall first cycle, people should be feeling like there's more focus than ever. And we're talking about not just like people feeling good about each other, but actually a student focused culture, a performance culture. That's what we're trying to really help people think about. I'll show you a tool we do that. And then over time, we keep it steady. And you'll see this as we continue over this year and into next year. Holding that steady allows people to go really deep into not just clarity about what they're going to learn about in professional learning, but also how they're going to need to transfer that into classrooms, how leaders and coaches are going to monitor those things. So we make sure that kids are getting access to it. And then, that's where the accountability and the movement and some of those results happen. So the research shows basically, for one, like, okay, so what is coherence? These are 6 different ways that growing coherence in your schools or your school systems because of SAIL we think could show up. So I'm just going to give you 30 seconds to read this. And then I'd like to have you maybe, as you review this, think about which 1 or 2 would you like to see, which one or 2 of these do you think would be really helpful for the school system to get better at, sooner than others? Excuse me. So again, if you could just take maybe 1 minute just to an elbow partner, which 1 or 2 of these 6 do you think would be really helpful for the school system to get better at as a way to make progress towards getting better at getting better? I'll come back in a minute.
Is what I thought. I would say using that student and all data. Development of purposes to really got that. Yep. Not how we reduce those distractions. Just, like I see those as the baby first is they're all great. Well, no, I huge.
They call it.
Yeah. 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 Committee. Yeah. Well, and then personal choice. Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna come back in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so let's do this old school, just so I can keep this moving, and I know you get on to other items here shortly. So you get to raise your hand at least up to twice. Just raise it once if you want, but I would like you to give me at least your top one or top two of these. Okay, if you had number one is a way you'd like this, you think that'd be really helpful for the system to move forward. Okay. How about number two? How about number three? How about number four?
Ooh, there were a lot of fours.
How about number five? And how about number six? Okay, well, thanks for that. So this is, again, I just try to use this slide because it gives you a practical way of seeing like what would be some ways that if we got more coherent, that we would start seeing things in kind of practical ways. And these are ones we see usually when I ask a school sale team, if there's 8 people or more, which is the typical sale team, I'll see hands raised on every one of them. So, and that whichever one you raise is just fine. It just gives you a way to kind of maybe keep an eye out for some of these things over time. Because again, we think these are real common, again, manifestations over time of how, as we get more coherent, we'll see that. And, another way I just say about coherent is I used to think, when I was a younger leader, I used to think like, okay, to improve a school or to improve a school system, it's really about taking the misaligned parts of a big system and then aligning them. And then it'll be more, more productive. And there's something to that. For example, if you could align like standards with curriculum, with assessments, then learning's going to get better, which makes some sense. Coherence is that next step though. So to go from misalignment to alignment is necessary, but it's not sufficient to moving the needle for all kids. So it's like what we're trying to do in SAIL is go from, if there's any misalignment, make sure it's aligned, but then to actually be moved from alignment to actually coherence. And one of the differences about coherence is, I can, as a leader, like I can align things to people or for people, but they might not see those connections. And I might be missing something, right? Because who am I to have it all figured out? But when it's coherent, as you create the alignment and the coherence, people can see they can see the alignment, they can see how they can connect to it, regardless of role or school or level, how they can contribute to something bigger than themselves, like that 1 or 2 ambitious student learning goals. So that's what we're trying to do. That's why it's not easy. Some of the hardest work you ever do. But again, I appreciate you leaning into it and all that. So just a couple more things, then I'll stop and see if there's any more questions, because we're not trying to figure it all out tonight. And but at least give you a little bit more information about what is underway. So when teams came in, before they even came in, each of them met with one of the coaches. That meant for your teams, some of the teams met with Cindy, their coach, and some of the teams met with Kevin, their coach. And we had an introduction because we want to make sure people understand what we're trying to do. In fact, some of these slides were some of the things we helped all people know about before they showed up to Wanakee for these first sessions in June. And one of the things is that they need to bring data pictures. So as Rebecca said earlier, they have goals that were relevant to their own context. Yeah, they were bringing some, we said, take 3 to 6 of your most, descriptive and accurate states, pictures of the current state of student learning in your school. And some of those should be around attainment. In other words, how many kids are proficient or higher, meeting standards, what have you. And then how many kids are you growing kids a year or more, that sort of thing. So we're trying to have them have, and there's a reason for that, because that helps people get a truer sense, we believe, and a more balanced sense of what's going on in their school. We also had them do equally this idea of performance culture. This goes back to cultivating the collaborative culture we mentioned. And we try to make the distinction between climate versus culture. Like people can, a school can have a really good climate where people like each other, principal likes the teacher like the principal, feels good, all that. And that might never move much for kids, because what we really need, and we want places where people like each other, for sure, if we can. The most important thing, though, for student results and relative to our mission is that people have a productive culture. So it's the climate, how we feel, versus a culture, how we behave, in alignment to and being centered on all students learning and growing. And so that's what we try to work on. So we have every team take this, and every team member do this 10-point assessment. These are 10 specific ways that research shows that high impact schools are unique compared to ones that don't move the needle for kids. And so we ask people to basically assess them. Like, does this statement, like the first one, strongly agree means that describes my school right now. To strongly disagree means it doesn't describe it at all. And so we do this, and people use that as part of our steps. And so these were the 10 steps. We call them mileposts. So the 3 arrows, these are the things they did the first day of the 3-day institute where we launched this in June. And then we got into steps 4 through 7, where you see things like the performance culture being used. You'll see like a theory of action, which Rebecca talked about. So people actually know what's the big picture of why they're doing what they're doing. And then the last day, they do 3 more items leading to the 100-day plan. So again, I won't go into all this, but the idea is we've honed this down to a tight protocol. So every one of your schools is going through these steps, and yet they might have a unique manifestation of what they're particularly working on because they have their unique context, readiness, decisions within this protocol. We like to say SAIL has a common process and leadership development protocol that leads to a differentiated set of applications that we think, with coaching support, are right size for that place to, be successful for whatever they need to do most. And then I'll just leave with this last thing. So a few things that make SAIL unique at this academy from others is, again, it's got a common process leading to a customized solution, which I just mentioned. It really creates shared understanding and focus for the coherence of effort. It develops deep capacity and distributes leadership. So we're trying to invest not just in your administrators, but your teams. That's why the teachers are there, because ultimately by year 2, when we're really trying to have more and more deep impact, it would have to be the leadership beyond just the administrative office. And that's what we mean to develop capacity and distribute leadership in various roles, that not just the ones that say principal with them. It does have coaching and support because we know that's critical to having things stick. We also are in 100-day cycles, not annual, because the research is clear that we need to do something more nimble and agile than annual. And we found that 100-day cycles is about the right level to get the impact we're looking for. And then lastly, we just had a lot of feedback that's positive, and we've been at this a while. So hopefully it all makes you feel, a little bit more knowledgeable about this investment, hopefully also more confident and engaged in what we're trying to do. And we finished with this, who's next? We've got a lot of good movement. We're excited about that and proud of that. But, it's now what your system's doing and, just leaning into this good work. So I'm going to be happy to take any other questions you might have about SAIL. And of course, my contact information too, if there's somewhere down the line you need something.
Any specific questions for Joe? Yeah, I think Linda grasped what you said. A lot of adjectives there, and mine was like excited. I'm excited to see what the results are. So.
Yeah, so Joe, our board spends a lot of time looking at our student learning data because of the model of coherent governance that we have. And they know how to read our data. And so that it's not surprising that they chose, I'm not surprised that you guys chose that as your #1 area to focus, that you're, most excited about, really. So I think it's just such a great connection to the model that the board has laid out as well.
Well, like you, we, if we do all the other things and we aren't getting better at moving the needle for our kids, which is our mission or vision, and, then we have to look closely. And so I really appreciate that. And I know that's a big part of, why you picked Rebecca too, because that's who she is and her team. So I appreciate all that. Glad to be partners with you in that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you talk about coherence. Obviously, we have coherent governance. This feels like we are aligned. We're trying to align the district, right? This feels like it's just kind of furthering that alignment down into the school levels.
Yeah, and holding teams accountable with coaching, which I love about that. I think it's just going to really help us move the needle.
Yep.
So thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
My pleasure and honor. A great school year ahead. Thanks for the time tonight.
Thank you. Have a good night. Bye.
All right. That brings us to item B, overview and discussion of future Board of Education communication events.
Great. So I'm going to have Kathy Williams is going to come join us. And she's going to give a little overview of where we're heading. We talked about this back at the board retreat, and then also looked at it again in May, I believe. And so now we need to talk about October 13th. It's time to get real with some of the details. So
Yes,
over to
so-
Kathy.
So since we've last chatted about this, there's been some more planning and logistics put into place. Rebecca and I had and Tanya too, we had a great meeting with Luke Justman. He's the new executive director of the Chamber of Commerce, the Forest Windsor Area Chamber of Commerce. And so we tried to, because many of you know in the past that we used to kind of do a lunch and learn with the chamber where people would have the option of coming in and just hearing the presentation that the board would offer as part of their community engagement linkage each year. And what we wanted to do, and the chamber has made some changes too, since Lucas has taken over the role. And so we're going to be actually kind of collaborating and partnering with the chamber in this. I can pass around the flyer related to the event. And so we're excited because it's gonna offer some opportunity for not only chamber members, but also all the various community groups and organizations that in the past you have gone to kind of individually, where you've popped in on maybe a Rotary meeting, a Lions Club meeting, the sports boosters, all the various business and community municipality groups. So rather than doing that individually, we're going to invite them all to the October 13th event. A light continental breakfast will be provided, and then there'll be information shared and kind of a rotation station model regarding those three pillars as it relates to academic excellence, exceptional staff, and then supportive facilities and operations. And then just so kind of really highlighting not just for our business partners, but our entire community to hear kind of an update on where we are with our strategic plan, and certainly how business partners in general can get involved. We'll really be highlighting what we know a lot of our business partners are excited to hear more about, our youth apprenticeship opportunities, what our graduates are leaving our school district with in terms of the future workforce.
And so then at that event, there will be the 3 stations, and there will be a director or 2 at each station. And then the role of the board is to have 1 or 2 board members next to that director, because then the board's role is really this is meant to be engagement. So it's meant to be director shares some information. We hear, hopefully we have wonderful questions and thoughts from our community, and you're listening as a board member, you're helping answer any questions you can, but that you're really trying to gather that information of what people are sharing, because then at the end, we are going to put together a little form, paper and or electronic, if you have to head out the door and get to work and fill it out later, so that we can come back together at the November board retreat or another meeting to talk about what did we hear from our community partners about our strategic plan. So it'd be taking their feedback and, doing something with it. So that would be the board's role, is then to be next to a director. You're not sharing. Typically you guys have presented slides. You're kind of doing the opposite. The director's giving the information and you're kind of the listening partner and helping to engage along the side. So what questions do you have about that October 13th event?
Excited? Sign me up.
Yeah, I'm excited too. Okay, so we're ready at that spot. Kathy and I already did personal invitations, and I know like the business development group that I meet with, they're going to move. They normally have that meeting during that time. They're going to move. People are coming, so we already know people are coming, which is great. We want people. So, Brian, it looks like you're willing to sign up. So October 13th, we are looking for a direct sign up right now. So, are you okay?
I check.
I can be there.
And Gail, okay.
I can do it too. I can be there also.
That's great. Okay. We'll definitely be posting this time. Yeah. So it's not a board meeting.
Do you have a certain number? I mean, it's.
Well, 1 to 2 per stations. We have 3 stations. So if we get, that's good. Like we're in a good spot. So that's perfect.
How many people are you expecting? Would you anticipate?
Attending?
Yes.
Well, we're
We'd
hopeful.
love to have it overflowing, but we think maybe 30.
Luke was predicting from what he's also some of his morning sessions he's had for chamber have ranged around that, a little bit less, a little bit more depending on the topic. So
Is there anything you want the board to do for outreach of getting business partners to come, or do you guys already have that kind of established with being in those groups?
Yeah, I mean, I think like anything, those personal invitations always go a long way. If it would be helpful, we'll be promoting this in all the usual ways. If you wanted to also, kind of share the information on your own social media page, or I could give you some of those flyers if you'd like to hand those out.
we will share the blurb with you that we shared with our groups that we go to so that you can decide who do you want to connect with. That would be great,
Okay.
actually, if the board could do that. So we'll give that to you electronically so you have it, and the flyer too.
Yeah, sure.
So, okay, great. That's October 13th. Are there any other questions about that? Because that was a little bit more urgent. We were like realizing like time's already ticking.
Yeah. All right.
Then the other, you want to talk about the next
Yeah,
one?
so coming up after that, I know is a favorite among all of us, meeting with our students. And so we've already got that scheduled with the high school. It'll be November 19th during that flex time. And again, all the fall coaches, as well as all of our advisors for our clubs and activities will be asked to send 1 to 2 representatives of their team or activity or club to hear some student voice, which we know is always very meaningful.
And I think, well, we haven't solidified the format of that exactly yet. What we've done in the past is I typically, with a couple board members, have done a presentation, like we each have taken a snippet, and then we ask for kids to write some feedback so that they do some thinking first and then sharing. It'd be great if I'm thinking to do something more in small group, and then gathering like the same kinds of questions that you all talk to the kids. The kids love to speak with board members, so they love to speak with administration and board members. And the tricky part is they're going to bring you things like the parking lot, which I think we've helped fix a lot of things there, but those kinds of things that you don't always oversee, but at least you can gather that information and pass it on to administration too. So I'm thinking small group possibly. So
Are we still, it's still the same like 3 pillars that we'd be going
I
through?
don't think so,
Okay.
because the kids really don't, they care about our exceptional staff and our operations and
Right.
they care about their learning, but I think that keep it more open for them about like, here's some celebrations of the district. What do you think's going well? What are some of the challenges you see? Like, we want to get student voice instead of telling them about the strategic plan. That's my thought.
Gotcha. So.
Do you want to sign up for that one too?
Yeah, well, or we could do it the other way we've done it. We could do it right now, or we could have you share with Tanya. What would you all prefer?
Well, I can do it, so you can sign it now.
Yeah, you can sign.
Okay.
I remember sending another email.
Do you want the same amount, or would you rather it be smaller, or?
I think if it's okay to go bigger if we can, but if we can't, then we can format around it too. And I get that. So you might have to think about it too. Gail, you said you.
Yeah.
Okay. I know it's hard to make a commit. Oh, I put brain. Kids would love that in the classroom. Okay.
And then the other ones are coming at a later date.
Yeah, we have a planning meeting coming up for those.
Yep.
Okay.
And
But there'll
more
be
info.
bigger groups as well versus like reaching out to all individuals is what the thought was, right?
For the learning exercise.
Where it's like a whole, okay,
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be going into classrooms, so we need to
Oh,
manage that
okay.
and have an RSVP for
Okay.
it. So, did you mean for as far as board members coming, or did you mean community?
both probably.
Okay, we will definitely need to restrict the number, just because we're gonna be going into classrooms, so it
okay.
can't be
makes
disruptive.
Yep.
We can't have 70 people coming into a kindergarten class.
Gotcha.
That would be a lot. I would love that, but I know that, no, actually, our kindergartners would love it. But yes, so we got to work through some more logistics on that. We have a planning meeting with the principals after we've launched the school year, so.
I love the change in this. I mean, I think we all knew we needed to do something
Yeah, something
different.
different. Yeah.
I like that the board's really taking the survey now or giving feedback on what they hear and listen to versus like asking people that attend the meeting to do that we've often done. So it's just a different format and I'm excited to see what we hear.
When I think about when we did the sessions related to the referendum and we had the boards and people moved around, I think there's just something about being up and moving and interacting with information that I think gets people talking more as opposed to just sitting and listening and
More informal.
waiting for someone else to speak. So
Well, it felt too, like we talked about, you know, when we think about this being an engagement plan, right? It felt like we were going and presenting and talking the majority of the time, and it wasn't really a whole lot of two-way, where this feels like we're gonna get a whole lot more of the actual engagement happening, which is the purpose.
Okay, we have what we needed. We have some people to help, so.
So I
thank
will
you.
say what, if anybody that didn't say yes, that they can't, or that they find out later that they want to sign up, they certainly can, correct?
Yes.
Okay, because like Gussie's not here, Jeff's not here, and if you guys look at your calendars and it works, it sounds like we're gonna be posting for the
Yes.
events anyway, okay.
And we're gonna need to come back and talk about the learning expos anyway.
Okay.
And then that'll be another opportunity for at least the student one
Gotcha.
to get going
Okay.
on, so.
Wonderful, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to board business and possible board action, a resolution authorizing the sale of Holm.
Yeah, so Kathy Davis is coming on up.
Oh. At the time finally come, I don't know. But pretty close. So I wanted to just kind of start from the beginning. That was
Hi.
just a resolution, but it's also let's think about this weekend because this is like a big deal. This is 100 some years in the making. And we have 22 days to a closing date where we're finally gonna say goodbye to something that was a very pivotal property in this district. And I was thinking this weekend about all of the decisions, all of the people that have gone through the different levels from when it was a site for the high school, it was middle school, it was kindergarten, it was district offices. The way the district looks now, almost all those decisions happened back there on that property. So I feel like it's worthy of saying a little bit more than just
Yeah,
passing a resolution. I also think it deserves, like, that property deserves a historical landmark, because it just really, a lot of things happened that has changed.
The way it is now, though, it can't be preserved. Yes. Yes. And reminder that the bell is over at the high school. So we did, that is, you see it at Circle Drive. So it's an important, I appreciate that Kathy came to me this morning and she's like, I really think we should make sure we honor that. So that's the document she's passing around, is the historical documents about Holm. And it really is special, you know?
What is being passed around, the pink document. I don't know if that's the original copy, because it'd be over 100 years old, but it was the ballot to build the Union High School on that property. They had to put a lot more detail into their ballots back then. And then the second document is when they actually built what we know as the Holm Education Center. So it's neat to just kind of see that picture of the old.
And the newer version of it, it costs $375,000 to renovate a high school.
Yeah.
That was the good old days.
I did include in your board packet the agreement to sell it. I'm gonna ask that you don't publicly disclose the dollar amount until we've officially closed. But I just want you to know that that is there, so in case you're curious of what we settled on. But it's not done until September 15th at 9 a.m. Part of the next steps, and it's gonna be hopefully the board's final action on this property, is to approve this official resolution that basically authorizes Rebecca or I to sign at the closing, because we need a physical person to do that, and make it final. there any questions? Have an emotional night.
It is. But thank you for the history. This is cool. You're right. It does deserve a moment.
It does. Served us well.
Right. All right. So we need a motion on the resolution.
I would make a motion to approve the resolution that's been put in front of us.
Okay.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we want a roll call vote?
Yes,
Need a second.
We need
With a second?
first, after, yeah, this, after the second.
I can do a second.
Megan's got a second.
I should have warned you. That's
how you
want to vote. Can you put them all in? The resolution, sorry. Thank you.
I like that the language is like,
condensed.
yeah,
It's basically saying that you're giving,
they can sign.
that we can sign for closing.
I think do you have questions, Sue?
No,
Okay.
I was trying to remember.
Okay.
I remember something differently.
We are ready for a roll call. vote.
Okay, Jan Berg,
Yes.
Brian Coker,
Yes.
Sue Esser,
Yes.
Linda Lenhart,
Yes.
Stephanie Sarr,
Yes.
Megan Taylor.
Yes.
I'll be a yes too.
Oh, and Gail.
No, I mean, I don't know. No, that's good. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you, everyone.
Oh, wait, we should give these
Yes.
back. These should be in the historical.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. That brings us to public input, which I have none. It brings us to board consent agenda. Would somebody care to make that motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? That brings us to superintendent consent agenda. Would somebody care to make that motion?
Make a motion to accept superintendent consent agenda.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? That brings us to press verification. It's not here. Brings us to board debrief of meeting. We'll start with you. Because you're looking at me.
No, man.
Yeah.
No, I think that's the sale presentation was really helpful in terms of, I'm not just scratching the surface, but to give a context for what's happening. Again, we said, it's really exciting, and we're joining a lot of people in the state. So I think, yeah, it feels like it's really consistent with the model that we already have in place. So that's exciting.
I would say we stuck to the agenda very well, and that sale presentation is very exciting, and it's great to see something so focused on student results and really honing us in on that. So I think it's great to just see that.
Jen?
Ditto, I
Yep,
guess.
okay, yep.
But I don't have much to add, other than we had a sale of a property and.
And this,
I like that. I didn't catch that, but I like that. Anything to add?
It just.
Sue, Brian, anything to add or comment on?
I like the engagement plan, so it's good.
I thought the sale presentation provided a very good understanding of what's happening and how we're getting where we're going without getting us in the weeds. It was very, better. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, it's created a very good understanding of what happens and what we're working towards without, giving us too much information.
I also appreciate that the board can still see because there is a connection to our monitoring reports, right? So, and that, I think that all clicked for all of us, obviously, because we chose 4, right? So that was very relevant to board work and how we can connect and see that something is working that we're doing. So, awesome. Thank you, everybody. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
A second. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Meeting is adjourned.